Oh, there was a new How Money Works I wanted to watch. It was, how is everything outpacing inflation
How is it possible?
at the same time? And that sounded very interesting to me because there is this sense that the inflation number is not capturing people's lived experience. And so I wanted to see, him go into that. I think that sounds interesting.
Since around mid-2023, that measured inflation rate has been around 3% annually. But it doesn't really feel like that, does it? If you think about everything you purchase in a given week, you would probably be hard-pressed to identify something that is only 10% more expensive than it was 3 years ago. And no, Arizona iced tea doesn't count.
Bro, I legitimately wonder how they do it at this point. Like, the cost of all the inputs into Arizona iced tea has gone up. They have to honestly be eating, they gotta be scraping profit. It's actually, or do they make money on something else? Is it a loss leader? Does Arizona iced tea, I mean, it's a cheap product, don't get me wrong. The company is debt-free, privately owned, does low cost or no marketing. They make their own cans, no TV ads. They use lighter aluminum, which cuts material usage by 40%. Interesting. But apparently, the company is making less money, but they're holding to it. That's impressive. I appreciate that. It's cool about them. It's certainly, it's also a fucking, it's a sick marketing scheme. It makes them seem fucking badass to stick to it. I'm sure people buy more of them because of it.
Now, you might be thinking about something like this chart here. We looked at it many times before on this channel.
Love
because
this
it
chart.
shows that over the last 2.5 decades, essentials like healthcare, housing, and education have outpaced inflation. But the average has been offset by non-essentials like cheaper cell phones, software, and television.
And by the way, this has been really good for society. I think we all agree people getting more software and more TVs and more cell phones and less schooling, hospital services, childcare has been like a net gain. It's been awesome. It's been fucking sick. All right. We can watch more shit. Enough said. You know what I'm saying? Enough said. It's sick.
Fast food that used to be cheap, quick convenience has turned into a very expensive treat. Your energy bills are competing with multi-billion-dollar data centers.
Okay, I will say, just a narrative counter here a little bit here. I do think fast food prices, or at least the deals, have been getting cheaper. The companies are, especially like McDonald's, been getting a little bit desperate. They definitely lost customers because of the price. Like, I'm not saying it's cheaper back to what it was. I'm saying it's cheaper than it was late 24. I think they're cutting down. Yeah. Maybe in California. I'm just seeing deals that they didn't have before. There's way more deals on the app, bro. There are way more deals. I think the average menu price may be turning up, but like they're doing more deals. I think my hidden theory, especially having tasted fucking Burger King in Copenhagen, is that even if they're finding ways to like deal out the price, they're cutting costs in quality. It's like shrinkflation, but in quality. Because it tastes fucking worse, bro. It tastes worse. I think they're finding different ways to save money.
And beyond all of this, tariff discussions mean that even generic consumer junk is quickly becoming coveted collectibles.
Has anyone done a really good video on the Pokemon card scalping crisis? I would love to watch that. I think it's, I know Charlie has videos where he like covers the funny bites, but I mean like a all in, like a deep dive. I think that would be really fucking cool to watch because I think it's really fascinating. I've been wanting to make one, but I just feel like I don't know enough about Pokemon to be the guy for this job. I would love to see someone do a really good deep dive.
And in this case, there are 3 major problems with how we process this data that is probably giving us the wrong idea about what we pay for, well, everything. We will get to broad market shitflation or shitification soon enough.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, another difficult blind spot is things getting...
that was my first thought. My first thought is that like there are a lot of ways. It's not, shrinkflation doesn't work. I know for a fact that shrinkflation doesn't work because the CPI accounts for unit volume and the amount. So if you change the amount of like chips in a bag, it accounts for that in the inflation thing. So you'd still be counting as inflation. But like, I don't think there's a way to measure in shitification, just making the quality worse, using worse materials. If the bag of Lay's is the same amount in the bag at the same price or slightly more, but they've reduced the quality, you know what I'm saying? I think that is like one of the things people are feeling a lot as well. I think it's what people are getting extra frustrated because that is inflation above and beyond the price, but it's not being shown.
If a phone gets more expensive, but it comes with a higher pixel count, a better processor, or an improved camera, it will be adjusted downwards in price to compensate for the improvement in quality over the previous offering. And this lower price tag is what will be counted in this basket, even though it's not actually what you would pay.
Yeah, but that's kind of fucked, isn't it? I get in theory why you do it, but when it actually hasn't gone down in price, but it's better for the same price, it's like kind of silly to market as a lower price in the inflation adjustment. It's like, in theory, that could make somewhat sense, but in practice, you just need a phone.
I personally use my phone to occasionally message my 3 friends and doom scroll the Financial Times.
Yep.
All of this could be done by a 15-year-old phone without many problems, in theory.
Like every single year, my phone gets a better camera, and yet I take no pictures. You know, I'm a fucking dipshit streamer who buys a new model phone regularly. But like, what am I doing? What is the point of this? I have like 5 pictures I went to China for 10 days. I took a bad picture of me playing basketball, a picture of eating spicy hot pot, and a picture of a bridge. That I spent 14 days in China. That's what I got. This should not be changing the inflation on my phone.
And to see that, we need to look at the bigger ticket items. So it's time to learn how money works to find out what's really letting everything.
It's only been 5 minutes. I just talked a lot. I was about to rant about his intro length, but that's actually not too bad.
Most people have no idea how much of their personal information is already out there. Hundreds of data.
Check it out.
The problem with housing, both from a societal and statistical perspective, is that it is both an essential consumer good and a speculative asset. But when the BLS is putting together the Consumer Price Index, they want to separate out the speculative asset part of housing and focus on how people are using it just as an essential good to be consumed like food or water.
Okay.
The TLDR from all of this is that house prices are—
Why don't they just use fucking average rent price, whether it's gone up or down? What? Like that's gonna hit the average person's experience of the CPI is. Why?
Instead, the BLS surveys homeowners and rental listings to try and establish how much they think they would be able to rent their home for, something they call owner's equivalent rent, being
they
your
survey
asset, so
homeowners?
It is pure consumption of shelter as a good and not an investment.
No, not pre-watch. That's not what I said at all. I'm not saying survey homeowners to find out what you think you could rent it for. I'm saying fucking just use the publicly available data on what average rent for a region is.
But that creates 3 major problems of its own. The first is that rental agreements last for a very long time, which means this data can lag behind the reality of the true housing market by several months.
Dude, you know what I think they should do? This is Atriox's pitch for the BLS, because I don't think they're faking the data. I just think this is, you know, much like the survey responses for the BLS jobs data. I think it's just needlessly complicated. I think survey results have been less and less high quality. People don't respond anymore. And I think they're getting more and more out of whack with the truth. I think they should do it the way Nielsen Ratings does it for TV shows. If you guys don't know, the way the ratings system for how many people watch TV, how many people watch the Super Bowl, how many people watch, is they have a select sample group of families that have Nielsen TV boxes that track everything they watch. So it's like thousands of families have these things. They pay them to have it. And then they use that as a statistical sample to say, okay, 40% of people watched the Super Bowl, or 10% of people watched, you know, the Masked Singer finals or whatever. That's how they figure it out. So I think the BLS should have a sample of 10,000 American families across the country and track their spending. What they buy Lay's chips, they buy McDonald's, they rent, and then track if those costs are going up or down. That would be an interesting way to measure CPI. And then you would have the real lived experience as a measurement of, like, I think that would be swag. How would they collect the data? The same way as a Nielsen bot. You would opt in, you would get paid some nominal fee, and then your bank would be linked. Your bank account or your card would be linked so they could see. So it would all feed into their data. That'd be so simple. Government surveillance, absolutely not. It's kind of a privacy problem. It's opt-in, bro. It's like saying Nielsen's a privacy problem because they can see what you're watching on TV. You just choose to. We got offered to do it. Ari almost did it, but I was like, babe, we don't need the money. And it's like, what? It's a pain in the ass. You're sharing with the government in an anonymized survey to see CPI prices. It's not like the government is deeply wanting to know how much you spent on gas. Someone in chat said it. Half this chat would do it if they promised you $100 a month. Absolutely would. Absolutely. Everyone talking shit. If they offer you $100 a month, of course they would do it. Of course. You're sharing your fucking bank data with the government so they can do CPI? Of course.
Now, the final big reason that everything feels like it is getting more expensive faster than inflation is because a lot of goods and services are just getting worse.
Yeah!
Now, we've already touched on enshittification, where companies will offer the same product at the same price year to year, but skimp out on build quality, materials, or ingredients to save costs on their end while still being able to say that prices have stayed the same. Part of the reason why people can't get away with using old phones that would suit their needs perfectly fine is that repairability is terrible and software updates routinely render older hardware borderline unusable.
Yeah.
The gradual decline in quality across the board of consumer goods has been widely...
Dude, I heard that, this could be wrong. I'm sorry, this is something I heard. I heard that Apple, with the AirPods, the left AirPod, it's the one that does all the microphone and the notifications and everything, burns out faster than the right one every time. And so they could easily fix that by normalizing it, but they choose not to because they know it causes you to replace AirPods. You can set it manually if you want to, but you have to do that. It's opt in instead of opt out. And so I think that's so funny.
For everyday purchases like groceries, insurance, and travel services, dynamic pricing has become the norm. This is a process where companies will build a profile on you and your shopping habits and use that to individually set prices for different shoppers to extract the highest possible price out of each individual person. A busy professional trying to rush to the grocery store on the way home from work will be more likely to pay a higher price for the same basket of goods when compared to a retiree shopping in the middle.
Or like, what about like our hardworking streamers who need Sour Patch and Liquid Death delivered? You know what I'm saying? They get gouged. Their profile is analyzed and they get fucking gouged by these greedy corporations.
There are similar pricing hurdles to this in other areas as well. If you want to get a decent deal at McDonald's these days, you need to download their app, check your daily rewards, and navigate different bundle offers to find the best deal that suits you. If you can be bothered to do all of this, then you might end up spending half as much on the same bag of food compared to someone who had the audacity to think that fast food should come cheap and convenient.
Listen, I gave in for the McDonald's app. Not that I particularly am price sensitive, but there's a McDonald's not too far from us. Sometimes we want some stinky nugs. And the deals are good, bro. I don't know what to tell you. It's lame that dude, here's one thing I'll tell you though. I'm going to give this to the US of A. I'm going to give a point here. In China, everything also has an app. Even though there's a super app that does everything, everything still has an app additionally. And every app takes every single piece of your data. It asks for permission for your health data, every app at every place. If I'm walking into like a convenience store or whatever, there's an app and it asks for your like location history, your health data, your run speed, your everything, dude. Your navigation, your BMI, your greatest fears, your notes app. Dude, it's crazy. Literally, yeah, you ask, we should ask, get Aiden on here. But we were getting some insane requests on every app. Imagine the McDonald's app scanning your being and says, nah, fam, you need a salad. Your BMI. It's auto-completing your order with a fucking salad.
So for the sake of completeness, maybe we should look at what categories have actually been falling below the overall inflation rate in the last 12 months, right? Well, there is good news and bad news there.
Okay.
The good news is that one key category that has actually been falling has a very tangible knock-on effect throughout the entire economy. The bad news is that that category is gasoline and other fuels. And I can't imagine that when the latest CPI is calculated next week, fuel prices are going to maintain their downward trend. Now, I know that a lot of this sounds highly theoretical, and 15 minutes of analyzing weaknesses in government statistical collection probably isn't the most interesting YouTube video you could be watching right now. But I still really wanted to make it anyway, really because of how important it is to everything else in our financial lives that hangs off this inflation figure. We have asked for our pay raise to keep up with inflation.
There's some other parts I would like him to include. I think they've been saying, this is one I wanted to look into, but I don't know enough about at this moment. But one thing that's always bothered me is that when you look at the CPI report, they generally say that health insurance has been going down in cost, but that is not anyone I know's lived experience. But I'd like to know how that's measured. Like in what world is health insurance getting cheaper? Because that is measurably dragging down the CPI. And it's like, for whom? For whom is that getting cheaper? I don't know how it's measured. I'd love to know more.
And if you want further proof of that, go and watch this video next to find out how things are not only getting more expensive, but also systemically worse across basically every industry.
Thank God for YouTube videos, though, that are getting higher quality and still free. Good video, how money works. Appreciate that. Yeah, it was interesting. Mike Green has done some good work on this that I recommend reading about hedonic adjustments, where he is also skeptical of the BLS's choices to count certain things as equivalent to previous things and cheaper, even though really the lived experience is that it's not cheaper. But anyway, worth talking about in the future.